Croeso nôl to Fearless in Devotion, the Wrexham AFC podcast, sponsored by whom, Tim?
The fattest of wild animals, the Fat Boar.
Fat Boar, wonderful establishment. Thank you very much for their continued support. And thank
Pizza
you.
Club. Pizza Club is a winner on a Wednesday, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Their Pizza Club on a Wednesday is spot on. Go and get your gums around it.
Thank you all very much for your support, for the comments after last week's podcast with Rob and Ryan. We really enjoyed it, you may have noticed, and it was great of them to give us their time, which we really appreciated. I thought it went well, didn't it, lads?
Yeah.
An enthusiastic response from this side.
Andy is still punch drunk. We should qualify this. Andy has just run a half marathon. Congratulations, Andrew.
I left it all out there.
I was going to say, can you talk?
No, it's fine. It's just I didn't know I was doing it till Wednesday, so I haven't trained for it. And I was fine until the last 3 miles, and I thought, right, big push, and the big push never came, Reese. In fact, I went backwards.
I just have to sign up next year and do it then. Well, congratulations anyway. You know, it's an achievement in and of itself. But speaking of last week's podcast, we had a great response, didn't we? You know, we were inundated with viewers, remarkable scenes. Liam, any comments sort of grab your attention?
Fortunately, the listeners and the viewers were more enthusiastic than a post-race Andy Gilpin. So plenty of enthusiasm there. So starting off on Red Passion, yes, believe it or not, you know, it gets a bad rep, but we have had lots of positivity on there. We love Red Passion. So Prodigal Dragon says, more great stuff. I guess Rob and Ryan will be here more often, starting with a racecourse gig in a few days' time. Safe to say they want success, not just for themselves, but for the whole North Wales community. I think that definitely came across when we spoke to them. Virtual Dragon says, well done all on finally getting Rob and Ryan onto the podcast. I listened earlier on Spotify, and it sounded like a very relaxed and natural interview on both sides. As was somewhat alluded to in the interview, hopefully they'll be able to do some further ones with you in the future when time permits. Yes, we would definitely be very happy with that. And Rex01, in terms of who we should get on next, suggests Jefferson Louis. Wow, that would
does he remember
top
playing
everything.
for us?
That would be a fall from grace from Rob. Sorry, no disrespect to Jefferson Louis, scored some belters in the time, right? But that's a strange suggestion for directly after Rob and Ryan.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those. But on Twitter again, good feedback continuing to pour in. Jason Lewis, who I believe does those awesome drone videos of the race courses, there's been building work going on, says, what a breath of fresh air this episode is. Both Rob and Ryan giving time and speaking honestly, openly, and giving down-to-earth views on the club. We actually deserve these two as owners after what the club has endured over the past decades. Yeah, very well said on that front. Christian McHale says, a fantastic watch. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Chairman. Couldn't help smiling like an Egypt. I like that word, watching throughout that. Some great insight, and I like the anecdote about Jordan Davis signing a ball for Paul Mullin and saying that Rosie Jones would have scored 4. And
not all Rosie Hughes, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't. That's my typo. Actually, I should say, not Christian. So slap on the wrist for me. Terrible.
I was going to say though, not all positive, Liam. We don't want to turn into a mutual backslapping society. I did enjoy this comment from, and as I say, all comments, all feedback welcome. Francis Lynch. 586 subscribers. Seriously, if you can get access to such people at Wrexham, you should take this seriously and up your game professionally. Francis, thank you for the feedback. All we can say is we all work full time and we do this as a hobby. Cannot stress this enough. If it offends you, please don't listen. Or should I not be saying that to listeners?
Were they referring to my thumb last week? Is that what it was?
Well, you've had your fingers in your mouth for the first 5 minutes, so I mean, every part of your body is going to be in this.
Listen, what I put in my mouth is none of your business. So, as I've told you many times, I'll just go through a few more.
Francis, we're on 1.2. 1,200 subscribers now. So thanks, Francis. That went up more than double.
Yeah.
So there we are.
I won't bore you all to death with comments, but just a couple more. Caroline loves the idea of Taylor Swift playing at the race course and says, "Sort it out, Ryan." So the gauntlet's been laid down very much on that one. A West Ham fan, David O'Rourke on YouTube, says he's jealous of the fact that the owners of our club have sat down with a fan podcast. I think that's one bit of feedback we've had quite a lot. So we are extremely grateful to have had them on, because, as an opportunity, it's not one that we hoped for. It's one we hoped for, but not one that we expected. So we're very grateful for that.
And also, I think it's worth saying as well that they don't actually, despite what you might assume, they don't actually do much media at all in terms of arranged interviews. Most of the outrageously, and I would agree, sometimes oversaturated press content just comes from organically from stuff that they do and stuff that they say online.
Tweet, isn't it?
Exactly.
Stuff they tweet and they react to.
So
you're
we're
right.
it's great that we got them on, and I think testament to what they're doing that they would give that time to a fans podcast rather than the ridiculous amount of requests for interviews I'm sure that they get.
Yeah, and just one final one, because I love compliments. Martin Hopley says, "Brilliant interview, gentlemen, and it's good to see you Welshmen are as good looking as the American Canadian stars." So I think that's me specifically, but if you guys want to take that credit on board as well, you're perfectly welcome to.
Well, what did Rob say before we started recording as well? Because I still haven't quite worked out how to take his comment. Wasn't it that we all look younger than we sound, or do we look older than we sound?
No, he said younger.
Okay.
I think.
Apart from me.
I don't know.
Apart from Tim. Is that because we're not sprightly enough when we talk?
I don't know. I mean, I had a bit of a disaster. Before last week's podcast, I thought I'd give myself a bit of a glow up, and so I went into the bathroom and bought what I thought was just like normal moisturizer, but apparently it wasn't. And like if you look closely at last week's podcast, I've got real big sort of bags out under my eyes. And that's because I've put the wrong moisturizer on, some sort of retinol stuff. And all the way through it was absolutely stinging my ass.
Incredible.
Absolutely horrible. Anyway, well, that's stayed away from my...
Kyle cream on Andy's face.
If you didn't, if you needed more proof of how incredibly professional that we are, that was it. Anyway, shall we move on from last week? We really appreciate it. And no guest today.
Just one quick to that, because I got asked loads of times by people saying, "Did you have to send the questions through to them to be vetted first?"
No, we didn't.
And the answer, the long and short of it, is no. We didn't at all. So again, it just kind of gives you an idea of how relaxed they were about it, and we're not here to stitch anybody up either. So it was going to be a fairly kind of relaxed kind of pub chat, which is what a lot of people said, that it just felt like a bunch of mates chatting in a room, like it was like the 6th or 7th time that we've been chatting. So that was really nice. And just wanted to thank everybody, echo everybody's thoughts in here for the feedback, and 35,000 views or whatever it's had on YouTube, which is just mad. And it's had loads of headlines, which I'm sure Andy will mention now.
Yeah, I mean, headlines. Obviously, I was guarding this. I went a bit over the top over the first start of last week. If you didn't link back to Fearless in Devotion, you got a strongly worded email from Andy Gilpin, Media Impresiario.
BBC.
Sorry, mate.
BBC.
Yeah, they didn't
do the link.
But it's all right. I sent them a shit in the post. So
Tim, I'm glad your internet wasn't this bad last week. Is it for everyone else? You're currently frozen with your finger up your nose? Oh, it's gone now. Okay, you're back now.
I don't know what's going on. I'll go off and
go off while Andy rattles through the press coverage. Go off and rejoin.
Right.
So lots of interest. It went to PA, so that went to most of Britain. New York posted a piece on the Ollie Palmer shirt. The Daily Mirror did a piece with a little bit from me, actually. They wanted me to talk about it, so I did like a little comment piece underneath. But instead of I made it we, chaps. Don't worry. This isn't the Andy Gilpin show. We know that.
It should be though.
Oh well, I mean, people would just come for the comedy value of me trying to. Oh, I got to admit, Tim. Should we leave him for a little bit? All right, we'll admit him. New York Post was a good one. Who else?
The New York Post in America. Remarkable.
Yeah. And everything that we do over here gets picked up over there because they are such sort of global icons. There was a bit in Australia as well. There was a bit, obviously the Mail and the Sun took a little bit from it. And I would say, Liam, 90% link back to the podcast. So, I shall call off my dogs for Rupert Murdoch's empire and the Mail a little bit.
That's a good link back rate. I'd say we're good at that. Anyway, let's move on from last week. As I was saying earlier, no guest this week, as you may have guessed already, but we have got.
Yeah, we've got some good ones.
We got some belters on the way. So stay tuned for that. Some that we've had a lot of requests on in the past, hopefully are coming to fruition this week. So we're very excited to share those with you. Before that though, let's talk about some other news. Liam, COP news, as expected, sort of plans to start pretty soon.
Yeah, in terms of the the news itself, I mean, what's come out is a pretty standard planning thing, but it's essentially confirming that work will start as expected on June the 1st, which I think is the news that we'd all hoped for. Everything still appears to be on plan. There's some site management details in terms of which access points they're going to be using off Crispin Lane and Mould Road, which isn't too exciting. But I think that, as I said, the main headline is it'll be going ahead as planned in June. And I think the aim is that it'll be ready for the start of the 2024-25 season. So that's an incredible turnaround when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, great news. And, hopefully they can learn how to be even quicker for when we need to retrofit our other stands as we're flying up the leagues. Who knows what discussions we'll be having in a year or two's time. Anyway, another footballer wants to play for us, or another has-been footballer. Sorry, Morton, Gamst, Pedersen. Tim, everyone, him and Hal Robson-Carter seem to want to be our strikers next season.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's very odd. Am I back in the room now with the internet, by the way?
You're back and you sound great.
Good. Lovely. Yeah, so some fella from the Sports Bible has decided to speak to Morton Gamst Pedersen, he of Blackburn Rovers and Norway fame. And I think he's now, what age is he at now? I can't even remember what age
41.
he is. 41. Okay, so slightly older than Ben Foster. And then there's just loads of stuff about his general career and what he's up to these days and so on and so forth, and his time at Blackburn and so on. And it just inevitably goes to the Wrexham story. And he said he's enjoying the whole saga, enjoyed the documentary. And then he was asked, would he play for us if given the chance or the call by Parky? And shock, surprise, the answer would be, of course he would. Of course he'd fly back from his homeland to join the Hollywood Revolution. And I just find it a bit weird and a bit odd, because surely it's a non-story. A, Parky doesn't want him. B, where does he fit into that midfield? It's that weird time of year, isn't it? First it was Sorba Thomas. Then there was mention of Johnny Williams, which has legs because of the link with Ollie Palmer being friends.
Johnny Williams has no legs.
No, yeah, he's made of glass. There is that. Yeah. There is that. But yeah, the Morton Gamst Pedersen, it's just really weird. I'm trying to find the quote for it now because
I've seen it, mate. I've got
long story.
I've got a little time for Pedersen on this one because obviously it's an interview about his career and they've just tagged on the Wrexham question at the end, but they know that if it's going to get hits, they put Wrexham up in the headline. And so, what he actually says was, "Oh yeah, I'd love another adventure. I'm 41. I think I can still do a job. Yeah, of course I'd play for Wrexham."
And also, if you get asked that question, what a boring way to answer it would be like, "Oh no, I'm probably a bit too old for that now." Do you know what I mean? Like he's probably just having a bit of banter. But as you say, we have to just get used to now. How often would we see an article in Sports Mail or anything that mentions Wrexham, never. And now, as Andy says, he works in the cut and thrust of the clickbait industry.
Oh yeah.
No,
All right, Reece.
knows exactly
you can
how to
resurrect
get
any 40-year-old footballer from the Premier League. Who you having for Wrexham?
resurrect a 40. Why do you need to
Well, you don't have
resurrect
to
a
resurrect.
40?
They're not dead. They're not dead.
I'll be
Not
back.
dead.
I just go back
They
to
can
the
just
shit
play
out of a
again.
wasp.
Tim, can you mute yourself while you do this?
This is
Thank you.
exactly what Francis was talking about.
It really was. And to be honest, I'm starting to agree with Francis. That's absolute ludicrous behaviour. Okay, fine. If I could resurrect a 40-year-old footballer who's not dead,
anyone
from
from
the
the
Premier League,
90s, anyone from the 90s, you can have back again, and they will play for Wrexham.
from
Who
the
do you want?
90s. Oh,
You remember the 90s, Reece?
Not really. It's my era. It's the noughties is my era.
Oh,
I
you can have
would
noughties. God,
I would
this
have
is
liked
such
to
a
have
simple
seen some
question.
JJ Okocha. I would like to
Yeah.
see play for Wrexham at his Bolton best.
So good, they named him twice. Liam.
Indeed.
I'm just going to go stupid answer and say Paolo One Chop, just because I used to love his name as a kid.
Okay. Tim, anyone from Wasps or?
No, two guy. Remember him?
Yeah,
He
the
was
smoking Turk.
He looked like a sort of like Turkish James Bond, and I just imagine he'd be quite decent. He'd be quite
James
decent.
Bond?
Yeah.
When I think of James Bond, I do not think of two guy. I'll be honest.
Why would you? But if you have a look at him, like
the Wasps has
he's
got
a
Tim.
rogue, isn't he? Two guy, classy as well. Like just anyway, you're wrong about Francis. Francis talking rubbish.
Right, I'm gonna pervert the question a little bit. I'm gonna say that we don't need a player from the 90s. We are dealing with a lot of glitz and glamour. We're dealing with a lot of big time players at the moment. Jingle jangle, we need Big Ron back. We'll have Big Ron.
Jingle jangle.
That's what happens when Big Ron walks into a room.
I'll be honest. I ran 6 half marathons in 1 year once, and it does funny things to your brain. It doesn't stop your legs. It just mashes your head. I don't know what you're talking about. Big Ron.
Yeah, it's a Big Ron.
Right. By the way, sorry to go off script again, but I've just Googled.
Right.
I've just Googled two guy, and there's absolutely in no universe is he to be compared with James Bond. He looks like Jesus, maybe, but like he's got quite a sort of mad mane of hair.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's James Bond. Where did you get
Exactly.
that picture of James Bond from?
Where's that picture from? That doesn't remotely resemble the pictures I'm looking at.
007 license to chill. Oh, that's what I did there.
Very good. Anyway, okay, let's move on from this conversation. The soccer tournament, Andy, this is this American Sevenaside thing. That we've had some news on that. Wrexham's Sevenaside team lineup has been announced. Some familiar names, some players from the recent past and the not so recent past playing.
You know what? If we were going to sort of say who do you want to resurrect from the 90s or the noughties, well, there was a couple here. We could have had Morel and Trundle up front. You know, we were talking about this with Morel for the 100th one, and I was looking at him going, you could play in this, mate. I mean, how old is he now? 46, 47? Maybe a little bit older, but, you know, he keeps himself in shape. Trundle certainly does. He still plays down your neck of the woods, doesn't he?
He does.
He's up for another club. So if we go through the team, Mark Howard, I mean, you know, he's a full-time goalkeeper.
Yeah, sound.
So we got a bit of youth in there with we've got Dan Jarvis, who, you know, is an incredibly skillful player. Probably can't put it together for an 11-a-side team, but
probably suits a 7-a-side game, you know, that kind of control.
Yeah, and fitness. And then we've got Scott Butler, another lad who sort of was in and around the team, didn't really get a chance for us, but I think he's early 20s, isn't he? So bit of legs there. You've got experience with Rutherford and Carrington. I mean, Rutherford's perfect player for a 7-a-side, playing a few positions and absolutely will never stop running. Right, a couple of strange ones here. George Boyd, that Wrexham legend, played for Peterborough. I Hull, I think I can remember him having a good sort of spell with as well. I think he played in the Premier League. I could always see that he was a fantastic footballer. I did wonder if he had that pace to really make it at the top level. But again, at a Sevenaside, maybe that doesn't matter much. And also Liam Grimshaw. Right, I'm going to read you his profile, answers on a postcard. A former Manchester United Youth Academy graduate and ex-England Youth International, the 28-year-old's career breakthrough came in Scotland with Motherwell, who he played more than 100 times for. Last season, he was with Greenock Morton. You know what? I wish I played Football Manager more now, because I probably know players like that. And now I don't. Because
sorry, mate, never heard of you.
Good old Grimmy. Good old Grimmy.
If Grimshaw brings home the £1 million,
yeah. Well, can we just clarify that? So we're obviously playing for $1 million prize money, and presumably the club gets that, right? After Trundle and Morel get their sort of cut.
Yeah, I would say so. But they'd give it to charity, wouldn't they? The club really needs well, I think any club needs £1 million, but
yeah.
I do wonder sort of if you sort of take off prize money for other. I wonder if it's £1 million for the winner, or is it £1 million prize money?
Says $1 million, winner takes all.
Oh, wow!
There we go.
Come on, Grimmy. Come on,
Grimmy, you can do it, son. Right. Anyway,
Absolutely.
good luck to them. That's happening in 2 weeks' time, I believe. So obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on that. But look, let's wrap this up soon, so we don't witter on all evening. Let's talk about League Two, because it's now almost finalised. I feel like we may be kind of jumping the gun a bit here, but it's always good. I was watching Stockport and Salford, that great semi-final yesterday. So Salford will definitely still be in League Two next season, which will be interesting. What happened with Bradford and Carlisle?
Carlisle beat Bradford.
There we go. So Bradford will be a great away day next year as well. Proper club. Tim, what are your thoughts on the runners and riders now? Who are the teams that you're really looking out for next season?
Somebody pointed out before that Salford would be delighted to stay in this division, because they're going to share the hate from other clubs with Wrexham and MK Dons now. So it's not just going to be them that are hated in that division. Everybody's going to have the knives out for us and the old franchise FC. So it's a weird one. There's so many, like you said, Bradford are a huge club, but just big attendances don't get you promoted, do they? So, massive club. Will they stick with Mark Hughes? Probably. Matt Derbishire's there as well, obviously ex-Wrexham. And I think they'll definitely have another crack at it. They'll be well backed. If Stockport don't do it, they'll be well backed. And, looking at Carlisle yesterday, there are no mugs, absolutely no mugs at all. But there's quite a few. There's quite a few up there. There's some big, solid teams. Can't see Tranmere doing anything. They seem to be going on the slide a bit now, getting cheap managers and stuff. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it. There's a lot of big hitters in that division now, and there's been a few comments this week that would suggest that, even because we're favourites, us and Notts County being installed as favourites for the title and them second favourites, some people are saying, well, yeah, I'd expect us to be in the playoffs regardless. But some fans of other clubs have said, well, it's not as easy as you might think it is. A lot of League Two games are apparently a lot tighter. We're not going to see Wrexham scoring 6 and 7 goals here, there, and everywhere. So let's not count our chickens too early. But we are in a decent position. But we got some big fish to take on for sure.
I mean that I think Leighton Orient lost 9 games last season, and still won the league relatively comfortably. So one thing's for sure, we're not going to go through a season and only losing 3 games. So we're going to have to get used to that. That might be a bit of a culture shock, actually, out of the last sort of 18 months. The unbelievable win rate we've had sort of post January transfer window in the first season, really, post Ollie Palmer. But I mean, Andy, what are your? We'll do a proper League Two preview, obviously, sort of when the fixtures come out and everything. But what are your early thoughts on how we're going to get on next year?
I think we're used to winning. I think the squad is used to winning. I think they'll bring winners in. I think they've cut it a little bit, and I'm not expecting a massive overhaul. I expect 2 or 3 quality players to come in, and those quality players will want to get out of League Two pretty quickly, I think. I also think, as we've sort of alluded to, you can lose a few games and still go up. So it's not every match isn't a do or die must have. Every loss isn't a disaster. In many ways, it might be a little bit more fun. You might go away to the likes of, I don't know, Forest Green and lose, but then 2 or 3 wins put you right back up there. Great, I'm all for that. Swindon, just want to say Swindon. My missus is from Swindon, and so that's the one that we've been looking at as a nice trip down the M4.
Yeah, I'm very much looking as a southern-based Red. I'm very excited for the better accessibility. Swindon, Walsall, even Forest Green, Newport. Obviously. Let's not talk about it. But it goes without saying, Liam, that we're all quite keen to turn Newport over.
Oh God, yeah. I've always got this memory, and it sticks with me. So it's quite haunting. Obviously, the playoff final, we lost to them. And I sat on the tube opposite this Newport fan and his kid, and all I can remember is just there was a smug air about him. Is what really wound me up. Just really sort of, it wasn't complete gloating, but just enough to make your skin crawl. So for that reason,
just enough to make your skin crawl.
If I could have thrown him off the tube. But yeah, I don't know what it is about Newport, but I just always want to beat them. I remember that there was a great game where we beat them 1-0. Andy Mangan got the only goal, and it was absolute cracker. And yeah, I all I'm saying is I hate Newport. And your Swindon lot of slugs as well.
Yeah, they are slugs. Reese has just disappeared. Now, before we sort of tie up, it's like how many teams have you not been away to? So I can count 5. I've never been to. Never been to Salford. Never been to MK Dons. I've never been to Harrogate. I've never been to what's the other one? Gillingham. Where's that?
Part-timer.
Sorry?
What part-timer?
And I've never been to Doncaster. Where do we stand with this? That I've been to Colchester, but I think they've changed the stadium since. Am I having that? Can I have that one?
That's the same as Doncaster, because you must have went to the old Doncaster's ground.
No, never been to Doncaster.
Right.
The only other caveat to this, I'm sure I must have been to Crewe, but I cannot remember it.
Guess how many
that's your brain just blocking it out, because nobody wants to remember going to the Crewe.
Guess how many I've been to out of that lot?
2.
Yeah.
1.
2.
Tranmere
Yeah.
and Crewe.
No.
Oh, do we have to go through another 24 teams before we
Tranmere and Stockport. Tranmere and Stockport.
Come on, Tim. You must have been pretty close to a full house there.
I'm looking at it now. So obviously Stockport have done the ones. Carlisle. I don't think I've been to Carlisle. I've done Bradford, I've done Salford, done Mansfield, which is really good. I've done Barrow once. I've no great designs to go back. Swindon I haven't done. So Swindon and Carlisle. Grimsby I have. Tranmere yes. Crewe yes. Sutton I haven't, bizarrely. So Sutton's on my list.
Okay. Sutton's on no one's list, but yeah, go
on. Gillingham, obviously Doncaster's new ground. Colchester, Wimbledon's new ground. Obviously I've been to the previous grounds. And that's it. So how many is that? 3, is it? Thereabouts. Bradford. I remember we played Bradford. I'm sure it was a Boxing Day or a bank holiday once. It was it's a big old ground. Not very welcoming for what I can remember. But yeah, that's about it. There's plenty, isn't it? I think it'll be really interesting to see what sort of allocations we get, because obviously the demand is there for the away games, regardless of what size the stadiums are. But it'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of maybe implementing a loyalty scheme going forward. We know the likes of MK Dons and Tranmere and Grimsby will get a decent allocation, but the smallery ones, perceived smaller clubs, is going to be a bit of a free for all and a bit of a scramble again. So
you know what? I'm looking at those teams and I'm thinking there's a stand for an away. You don't always get a whole stand for an away team in non-league. You will for, I would say, 90% of these. Reese, any in particular one you want to go to apart from Swindon?
I'm actually very excited for AFC Wimbledon. I've always had a soft spot for AFC Wimbledon because of what happened to them. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I always had a soft spot for them because of what happened to them. And my very good friends of mine actually live on Plough Lane as part of the development, so got somewhere to stay.
Oh wow! So they're pariahs then.
Yeah, which is handy. Yeah, exactly.
This is Wimbledon's the closest one to me. It's about 4 stops away.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, very much looking forward to that. Can I, before we wrap up the pod, can I bring up one thing we haven't really talked about properly? We think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, goalkeeping situation. Ben Foster, what are we thinking? Do we think he's going to take another year?
No.
I don't know. I think he is. I watched him on the latest Fozcast, and there's just something, a little twinkle in his eye. Ollie Palmer was shouting 1 more year, and I don't know. There's just something about the tone and the look of it that makes me think he is going to sign on.
Can I tell you why I bring it up? I have the master plan is why. So Humphrey Carr's mentioned, I think it was on this podcast, but he's mentioned it somewhere publicly, that what they would like to do eventually, is that Wrexham becomes a real magnet for local players to be able to come back, because obviously over the last 15, 20 years we've just lost so much local talent. And I would love us to see us sign Danny Ward, right? He loves the club and he's obviously a top class goalkeeper. He ain't coming to League Two. My thought process is Ben Foster does another season, get us out of League Two, we get to League One, and that's when we sign Danny Ward. Thoughts, feelings, emotions.
All right. Why don't we just go sign Chris Maxwell now? And you can still go to league top of League One, even Championship with him.
True. Is he not of the same caliber?
You're not going to get. What I don't want to do, mate, is we're quite stable at the moment with who we're buying and how much we're paying them. Danny Ward coming in, an international Premier League keeper, breaks that whole wage structure. And you've got the likes of Mullin saying, well, I thought I should be on par with the top earners. I think that's a bit unstable until, it sounds ridiculous, until we get to the Championship, and then I think, yeah, maybe.
Can you stop pointing out flaws in my perfect argument and my emotional argument to get Danny Ward back? I don't know. I just think that he could be persuaded to go down to League One. He'll play for peanuts. He's a Wrexham boy. He won't even want to get paid.
Not going to do it. He's not going to do it because he's got an international career still to think of. There's no way he's going to do it.
He's 25. He's 26. That's a backward step. If he was 34
in 2 years.
3 years, 4 years, not going to happen anytime soon. Can we kind of give a scorecard to Ben Foster? Because I love Ben Foster. I'm glad we've got him back. But in the 8 games, how good was he?
In the games
take away
this. Right.
Yeah,
in the games
all right,
mattered,
but he's not going to play a full season. He's not going to play a full season.
Here's the Mark Howard fan club.
No, but it's not even that. I genuinely don't think. I think Howard and Leighton are going to be number 2, number 3, because we've got extra competitions to deal with the cup competitions. And I think Foster's got all these sort of podcast and media commitments, which he loves doing, and he's trying to grow those. You can't do those as a full-time goalkeeper, commuting to training every day. It's not a million miles away, granted, but I think the snippet of the games he played and the impact he had, he can look at that and go, great, happy days. I did what I did to do, and I did it successfully. Why risk it now? I just don't. It's a win-win situation. If he stays, great. If he doesn't, it's really, really not the end of the world. And it's a thanks and good luck. And I think Maxwell's a shrewd move. I really do. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. But there's this whole thing about, oh yeah, but we need to sign young upcoming goalkeepers that can take us through the leagues. These are the same people that are saying, come on, Foster, sign another year. So what's it to be?
I think it's Laurie Walker, isn't it, from Barnet?
Over my dead body. I'm knackered, but I will run to Laurie Walker's house now and duff him up.
Ben should stop cock teasing everybody. He should come on this pod and tell us unequivocally what his answer is.
Oh, sorry, don't hear me. Someone else end the podcast because I'm on my phone, as you can see. I can't talk.
Oh, Reese Phone Man is back. Amazing. Train guy.
Yeah. How angry is he?
I'm currently angry because I'm baking hot. Is it boiling everywhere else? It's too hot.
It's quite warm.
Right. Okay. On that note, Angry Reese wants to tie this up. So can I just say, I don't think Foster will sign again. I think 2 games a week and the amount of times he'd have to play is a little bit too much for him. And I don't think we should have a keeper who can only play a Saturday or a Tuesday or something. You need someone to go all the way through, really. So for that, I don't think Foster will sign. If he does, great. But I'm not hanging my hat on it. I'm not hanging Tim's hat on it. And yeah. That is the last note on that. So, Reese, do you want to say goodbye so you can I don't know.
Fine, I consider myself fine.
And now his internet's gone. The final ball flick for this.
This was right.
The last week's sublime to this week's ridiculous.
Francis was
Can we just apologise to everyone? The one person who will like this is Francis. Francis will think this is great. Okay, right. Liam, thanks very much for your time. Tim, thanks very much for yours. Let's say goodbye. Reese, can you give us a goodbye? Goodbye.
Bye.
Right. Okay.
Top quality.
Take care.